This is your tech news briefing for Thursday, January 5th. I'm Julie Chang for the Wall Street Journal, filling in for Zoe Thomas. The amount of digital clutter we amass on our devices can be, massive. If you have thousands or tens of thousands of emails sitting in your inbox, or countless photos you've taken and then forgotten about, you may be guilty of cyber hoarding. But not all hope is lost. To help you kick off the new year with some digital cleaning tips, I'm joined by Julie Jargon. She's the WSJ's family and tech columnist. Hi, Julie. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Julie, you looked into cyber hoarding. How big of a deal is this?
Well, it's a pretty common thing. There was a company called highspeedinternet.com, and they conducted a study recently and found that about half of U.S. adults only delete their email regularly. And then we only open about more than half of our messages that we receive. And it's really adding up to a lot of stress. 62% of the survey's respondents reported that they feel anxious about all of their digital stuff. Highspeedinternet.com also found that too much digital clutter can slow down your internet performance.
So all of this cyber clutter seems to be very overwhelming for people. What do experts say about why we keep digital clutter if it makes us so anxious?
Well, a lot of people hold on to emails and documents because they think that someday they might need them again. I talked to one psychology professor who said it's just like people holding on to that old pair of pants that don't fit them anymore, thinking that they might fit someday in the future or come back into style. So the same thing is at play with the digital stuff that we hold on to. We think that the moment we delete it, we're going to need to find that document or email, and then we're going to be in trouble.
All right, then, let's get into some tips for decluttering. Before we dive into any specifics, are there any more general rules or advice to keep in mind while we do this cleaning?
The most important thing is to start out small, take baby steps, because it can be really overwhelming if you try to think about all of your digital clutter. And so it's helpful to start with one category of digital clutter and also start in small chunks. So for example, if you want to start going through unread emails or old documents, set aside some time and choose 1 month worth of unread emails to go through. And then some psychologists also suggest using some different techniques to reinforce good behavior. So you could set aside, for example, 10 or 15 minutes of deleting old emails and then reward yourself right afterwards with 10 to 15 minutes playing a game on your phone or scrolling through social media.
So I'm looking at my personal email inbox right now. I have 1,300 emails. They've all been read, but there are 1,300 that are just sitting there in my general inbox. My work email has 3,200 emails. I mean, how do I even start clearing this up?
Well, first of all, you want to limit the number of accounts that you have. So you mentioned you have an email account for work. You might have one for personal emails and one for spam. You want to delete any extra accounts that you might have because some people say you really don't need to have any more than 3 email accounts. Next, you can sort your emails into folders so that they're outside of your inbox. So once you've read an email and it goes into a certain category of email, you can label it and put it in a folder so that it's not looking at you from your inbox. For example, as a reporter myself, I might have categories of emails based on when I need to respond to them, or, for example, they might fall into certain categories of coverage. So I might have emails about video games for the work that I do with my column. I might have emails that pertain to screen time. One thing that I found to be really helpful that I wasn't doing before is you can mark an email as unread, even if you've already read it. So for me, I forget to respond to an email once I've read it and received it. If I try to set it aside and think to go back later, I completely forget. So if I have unread email messages, I find those because they're bolded and I can easily search for those in my inbox. There are some ways that Gmail and Microsoft Outlook have automated ways to manage email. So you can silence notifications, you can snooze messages until you want to read them. And there are also some third-party services that can help you manage your inbox, one of which is called Clean Email. And you can use these functions that exist within your own inbox or these third-party services to time email to be received or to be sent at certain times so that you don't feel overwhelmed by the constant influx of emails all day long.
A lot of those emails also have attachments, and some of those attachments are documents that are very important. Sometimes I download them. Other times I don't bother clearing up the email since I figure if it's in my inbox, it's stored as a backup, and that way I have two copies, one locally on my computer and one in my email. Is there a better way for me to do this?
I think you're doing the right thing that you have a couple of different copies, because the most important thing is to have backups of important documents. If it's only stored locally, like on your computer and only in your email, that might not be enough. If you have a cloud-based service or way to save the most important documents, whether it's Dropbox or Google Drive, that is kind of a good safeguard for not losing something that you really want to be able to find. If your computer goes on the fritz or your email is down and you need to find a document quickly, it's good to have a document somewhere else that you can access from another device.
I'm glad to hear that I'm doing at least one thing right here, keeping double copies. Let's move on to another very big piece of digital clutter that a lot of us have: photos.
Yeah, the photos are just a major source of pain for people because we take so many, because we have a camera in our hands at all times. We're constantly taking photos. And again, the fact that you have some backups is a good thing. So saving photos to the cloud is really, really important if you want to make sure you don't lose them. You can also use third-party storage service like Dropbox to save photos to. In terms of organizing your photos, you can create albums within your camera roll so that you can quickly find things you need. Apple Photos and Google Photos have smart identification tools that can, label and sort photos based on people that are in them or pets. And if you add labels to your favorite photos, then you can quickly find your cat pictures or your photos of your grandma. I've been in a position where it was my mom's 80th birthday last year, and my brother asked me to find some of my favorite photos that I had of her. And I had a hard time scrolling through my phone trying to find photos because I don't live in the same state as her, so I don't take a lot of pictures of her. So I had to sort through and try to find photos.
All right, WSJ family and tech columnist Julie Jargon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And that is it for today's Tech News Briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. I'm Julie Chang for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.